You are listening to the Gospel-Centered Education Podcast, brought to you by Community Christian School in Tallahassee, Florida.
Hello and welcome to the Gospel-Centered Education Podcast. My name is Tom Argersinger. I'm your host, and my host today is Kayleigh Allen. Hey, Kayleigh.
Hey, Tom. On the Gospel-Centered Education Podcast, we explore how we as Jesus followers can connect the dots between education, contemporary culture, and biblical theology and live like Jesus in this broken and challenging world. And today, we are so excited that we have two guests with us today, representing the Senior Leadership Program here at CCS. We have Mr. Jeff Collier and Miss Kayleigh Stuart. Welcome, you guys. We are so blessed to have you here. We want to learn all about the Senior Leadership Program. Let me introduce you guys just a little bit. Kayleigh, you have been a part of the Senior Leadership Program ever since when?
So freshman year is when I started getting involved.
And you're currently a senior, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And then I became a senior leader my sophomore year. And then my junior year, I led a team. And then my senior year, I'm a squad leader and a team leader.
Awesome. And Mr. Collier, you are the leader of the Senior Leadership Program, right? And you're also CCS Chaplain. We've had you on before, and we're so happy to have you back.
Thank you.
So as a parent, I hear about the leadership program. What's the difference between the leadership program and the Senior Leadership Program? And what is it?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you don't know what if you don't know what the leadership program is, you can see our former podcast.
Yes.
But what we realized is, as we were, and Tom, you remember this because you were with us when that first year when we were taking students through on the Appalachian Trail, and we had instructors all along the path. And then we had teams of students in between us. We realized that, if the worst case scenario should happen, do all of the students have the wherewithal in skills, in tools to be able to survive that situation until help arrives, which would of course be us, and hopefully we wouldn't need any more professional help than just us. And so we began to develop the idea of the Senior Leader Program, which are students in the high school program that are better trained in the outdoor skills that we use and in leadership skills in order to bridge that gap between a time of an emergency to when the certified adult help can show up. That was the impetus, and man, has it grown since then.
Yeah. How many senior leaders do we have now?
We were just trying to count that. We will announce that, I think, on Thursday, but I believe that we have, at this moment, 34, and then we're going to lose 13 of them this year as they graduate.
And
That's
how many
crazy.
kids are in the high school?
There's a total of 106, 107,
right.
somewhere
Okay,
in
so
there.
34 out of like 106
Yeah.
kids.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we only have that large number for half of the year, because then we'll graduate these students and lose them, but not before we get all of their wisdom passed on to the next generation of senior leaders.
And
awesome.
you mentioned, Kayleigh, that you were a team leader originally, kind of a small team leader, and then you kind of continued to lead teams, but then you became a squad leader. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between the squads and the teams?
Yes, sir. So a team is usually made up of 4 to 5 people. And then a squad, I think mine is around 16 students. So I do teamwork whenever we go on hikes or volunteer. It's usually separated into those smaller groups. So that's like the 3 or 4 students you know really well and can mentor really well. And then squad leader, you have several team leads underneath you that you kind of mentor and delegate to and help them lead their teams. And then you're just kind of there overall, kind of the step before the instructors for any mentorship or instruction.
Yeah, That's a great explanation. Well done. So how many squads now?
There are 6 squads.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
If you were around at the very beginning, I forget how many we had at the very beginning in 08 or whatever it was.
Just one.
Just one squad, and it's
one squad.
grown to 6 now. That's really amazing.
Wow, that is amazing.
Grace of God and a lot of hard work. That's so cool.
So Kayleigh, what's your favorite part of the Senior Leadership Program?
Probably all of the opportunities to volunteer. I love the community service. Some of my favorite places, we volunteer at the Phi Center, which is a local pregnancy center. And we had the opportunity to like clean and sort clothes for them and kind of get some of the busy work done for them. And then certain families or people in our community, organizations that need yard cleanup, and Florida experiences a lot of hurricanes, so that's often a cleanup opportunity that we get to help with.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, and just I remember one of the things that people would always say, you know, and this is not true just of the senior leaders, but just in general, when our kids go to serve, they're always amazed at the actual amount you guys can get done. Because, and part of the reason for that is you're better organized. And that's what something the leadership program and the senior leaders do a lot with, yeah.
Yes.
You have a lot of responsibility in helping to keep that organized.
Yes.
Yeah. So is there anything specific, like when you think about, you've learned a lot of different things, and you've learned outdoor skills, and you've learned skills of leadership. Is there something maybe in the leadership area that you've learned about leading people that you'll take with you when you graduate and you think it'll be useful later on?
Probably the most important is leading by example and leading from the bottom up. So, and I use this like in my job currently and in other places in life. If, you know, you're showing others from doing the grunt work, then it kind of uplifts everyone and you just get more accomplished through that.
Very good. That's so good.
That's awesome.
I love that, yeah.
Great.
So how do you feel like, along those lines, how have you grown kind of personally in the program?
Yes, so through like the senior leadership training and then all the volunteering, I've probably become more aware of like different people's strengths and weaknesses and how to work as a team to complete the best or the goal, and really just to improvise and adapt to accomplish different goals. And
Now, we were talking before we went on air just a little bit about what you're thinking of doing as you leave CCS. So would you mind sharing a little bit of that, and just maybe how some of that leadership training might come in handy later?
Yes. So once I graduate high school, my goal is to go to University of North Florida, major in history, and then eventually go into law school. And as an attorney and working either in the courtroom or with legislation, there's a lot of leadership involved. And so really listening and hearing others will be an important job in my future career. And again, leading from experiences and learning and listening.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I love that. That's
awesome.
Terrific. Yeah. Well, and you guys, I want you to know this, and I really think this is true, and it's not an overstatement, that you guys, and a lot of what you do, and you probably don't realize this, but what you do is an inspiration to a lot of younger kids. And kids have a lot of role models today. You know, and a lot of them are celebrities and celebrity athletes and entertainers. But there's a sense in which you guys have an incredible impact, I think, on the other kids. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit from a parental perspective.
Honestly, I think when you were saying that, I was thinking teenagers have the stigma of not being helpful, not being organized. You guys are like going against that. And you're actually not only encouraging younger students, but encouraging adults too. You know, those organizations that invite you in to help, they're probably really impressed with the group. Do you have any stories about that?
Yes, I do. So one of the things I appreciate about the senior leaders, we haven't talked yet about the process of how you become one. I'm sure that's coming up. But once they have been through that process and have made it to become senior leaders and given the right to wear that black shirt that Kayleigh's wearing, which is a right and a privilege.
So it's a right and a privilege to wear this shirt.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, and so she's earned that, and when they've earned that, the senior leader moniker, the trust that the instructors put in them, along with the responsibility, is so much greater, so that I don't have a problem if we were going to the Phi Center. I would not have a problem saying, Kayleigh, do you have this inside while I go outside? There won't be any instructors in here with you. And Kayleigh's going to look at me like I'm crazy and say, I've got this, go. And the trust there is, if she has a problem, she's going to come find me. Otherwise, she's going to do it herself.
Yeah.
And the organizations that we serve have noted that. Again, as Tom mentioned, usually they don't have enough for us to do because we're organized. The senior leaders organize the groups, get things moving, keep them moving along, keep new tasks coming in. And we just plow through the work they give us so that at the end of usually right about lunchtime, they're saying, we don't have anything else for you to do, and this is supposed to be a whole day's work.
That's amazing.
And that's a credit to the students who work really, really hard, but also the senior leaders who keep them motivated, who just keep that good spirit, the esprit de corps of the group up.
Yeah.
And probably keep the standards up, too.
Yes, I was going to say, and make sure we do it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us what it takes to become a senior leader.
Would you like this?
How did you
I'll
earn
take
that
this
shirt?
one.
Tell us how you earned it.
So there are 3 phases to the senior leader selection process. Not everyone that wants to be a senior leader gets to be a senior leader. And so there's a selection process. And so the first phase is really about, I would say, pushing students to their physical and mental, kind of pressing those capabilities, showing them that they're more capable than they believe. And that adds some stress to them. And we put them at the end of the first phase through a scenario where they have to work together and accomplish a task together, knowing that if they do their job well, they may be working themselves out of a position as a senior leader. In other words, what we tell them is your job is to make sure that everyone else around you makes the senior leader rank, even if it's at the cost of your own. Because that's what a leader does, is serve one another. And so that puts some stress on them. And if they make it past that first phase, we move to a second phase, which is really more learning how to lead, learning some skills. One of my favorites that I think comes in handy, and this was I believe a Tom introduction, is the whitewater planning, which if you've ever been whitewater rafting, think about leading from the perspective of the Whitewater River guide, because you have to take in all this information as it's coming and responding quickly. And so they learn those skills, and then we have another scenario at the end of second phase, which is actually one that I lived through. Tom lived through the actual event, and we made it into a scenario because it was so good. And we don't share what these scenarios are because if you know what's on a test, sometimes you just memorize the answer rather than understanding how to solve the problem.
Yeah, it can sound secretive.
Yes.
But it's on purpose because of what you just said.
Just like we don't share the answers or questions to a history test, you're not going to know what the scenario is.
Did you know anything about that scenario much before you went through it?
I did not.
You didn't? Okay.
There was kind of like
rumors,
some hinting, some rumors.
Yes.
It definitely adds to like the mystery and pressure of it because I'm a planner. So that was one challenge for me, is not necessarily knowing everything. But that's life. You don't know everything. So.
No, it's very true. And that's kind of one of the things about the leadership program in general, is that everything's a training moment. So the very fact that you don't know is part of the training. Because like you said, if you're a planner like you, then all of a sudden you've got to be able to adjust and adapt in the moment, So, yeah, that's excellent.
And so after making it through second phase, then you go to the final phase, which we call the long night. And as the name says, it is a long night. It's an immersive scenario, about 9 hours, where students are put on a piece of property that they've probably never been on before, and again at night, so there's a little disorientation there, and they're given tasks that are kind of Christian missions-based tasks that they have to accomplish by a certain time. And usually midnight is our cutoff, and sometimes we run a little longer. And they use all those skills and training that they have been learning in order to accomplish and succeed at the long night. And
so that makes me wonder. So when you think back over the selection process for you, was there something you felt like you discovered about yourself that maybe you weren't clear on or didn't know before, even before you fully became a senior leader?
I think so, yes. Definitely first phase for me was like the most challenging, because it pushed that planner in me. So I definitely learned kind of how to deal with like a healthy amount of stress, especially in situations, and how to move forward with it, and to a certain extent use it to your advantage. So
I have to ask you, when he's talking about physical challenges and mental challenges and just, it sounds grueling, what would make you want to do that?
Excellent question.
You know? I mean, and also there's got to be parents, that are saying, what are you doing with my child?
Well, maybe
So
we get to that part.
Yeah, what would make you want to do this?
Yeah, first part, why would you want to do it?
So for me, I had older friends that I kind of looked up to who were senior leaders, and I saw how they interacted with each other and other high schoolers, and I wanted to be that. And then also too, I've always pushed myself, even since I was young, I've wanted to be the best I could.
Okay.
So I kind of love challenges, physical challenges, mental challenges. I just love to push myself. So going through it, it was hard, but looking back, it's kind of fun to look at. And
because we were talking earlier, and you don't particularly like camping, you like to hike every now and then, but you're not, necessarily a camper. So to expose yourself to more of that is cool that you wanted to do that. And do you see that happening in the kids? Like, they want to challenge themselves to grow?
Yes. We have a lot of senior leaders who are not particularly outdoorsy. And that's, as we were saying earlier, just like you have students who love the academic world, but that doesn't mean they love sitting in a classroom.
Right.
The classroom is where the learning takes place many times at schools, just like we do leadership events in the woods. But that's just the woods are just the classroom to get the information across. And then hopefully the students are learning how to apply that in everyday life. So it is somewhat normal to not love the outdoors and want to become a senior leader. However, it takes a special group of students to hear, as Kayleigh says, because let's face it, some of your older senior leaders probably made it sound more horrific than it really was, because they like to add a little to the drama, and to yet still decide, I want to put myself under this challenge, and I'm going to succeed. That says a lot about these students.
And I think that's really, really an important message, because the world desperately needs good leaders. And good leaders have to figure out how to process through hard times, especially nowadays, more than ever before. And so, and it's a lifetime. I mean, I've been leading for a long time, and I learn something every day. So you never quit. You're never done with the whole leadership thing. So I want to make sure we get to the question just about, for those parents who are kind of concerned, gee whiz, this looks scary. What's going to happen? I don't know every single thing that's going to happen every minute of the day. How would you respond to that?
There's a couple of ways that I would respond. One is, I know, well, first of all, I love these students, and I would not put them in real danger. that they can't handle. I also love my job and my family. And so realistically, I mean, it's funny, but realistically,
Makes sense.
I'm not going to jeopardize that just to make something difficult. And so we have, I've got some risk management training, certification. Everything we do is under those auspices. And so I would ask parents to continue to trust the school and us, the leadership instructors, to take care of your kids and to challenge them in an appropriate way in order for them to grow. That's kind of the base level. And I would also say that the students, they will do a good job of calling instructors out because we have that kind of relationship. If there's something that goes beyond what we should do, I would hope that these senior leaders would say, whoa, Mr. Collier, that's not right. We've never had that happen. Because as I said, when they're away from their parents, I treat them like they're my own kids.
And your kids are in the program or have gone through the program.
Yes, and so
now... As did some of mine,
Yes, and all three of mine are now senior leaders or senior leaders past. But that has to be their own decision because of, as Kayleigh mentioned, some things are really hard and grueling. I think that was your word, was grueling. And if parents push their kids to do it, and it's not the kids' own motivation to be a senior leader, when things get tough, they'll quit.
No, 100%.
And that's why I didn't push any of my kids. They had to decide for themselves.
Same here. I wanted to press in, that's a great explanation. Thank you. I want to press in just for a second because I think people need to know this, that Mr. Collier actually went through the premier risk management program for outdoor leadership in the country, which is National Outdoor Leadership School. It's a terrific program. And so when he says he kind of got some training in that, he got very professional, great training, which has been very helpful. And then just a lot of experience. You've been doing this for a long time.
Yes.
Experience teaches you a lot.
I think this was the 16th year of Vision Quest, 17th year of senior leader training. We've been doing this in the 18th year of the program itself.
Which I suppose doesn't make us experts entirely, but does make us older. I mean, I think that
experienced, not experts, but experienced.
That's right. But you do learn a lot, and it's interesting seeing different classes come through because this is interesting. It's interesting to me anyway. So different senior leader classes tend to take on certain general characteristics. Like you can almost label the class in some ways, in a sense. For your class that you went through with this, how many people were in your senior leader class? Do you remember?
Was it 13?
That sounds right.
Something like that.
13 or 14.
So was there any particular attribute or anything that kind of would describe the class that went through?
I don't know if there's like a word for it, but a lot of us, we learned a lot about each other.
Okay.
And after each phase, typically the instructors are like, here's something you can work on, or, here's what you did well in. So about half of us got, oh, you're very well spoken, you're outspoken, you lead well with your voice, but watch out for those who don't. And then the other half was like, you're leading, but you need to speak out, you need to be louder. So
'cause it really kind of takes both.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the next couple of phases, because I was one of the quieter ones, so some of my friends who were not so much, or even just my classmates, they would be like, okay, well, what does Kayleigh think about this? And we would just kind of trade off. So we learned how to balance each other as a class, and it was great.
What do you know?
Yeah. That's terrific.
Speaking very well.
I love that. So what was one thing, and I know you guys do quite a bit of training just around kind of emergency, pre-hospital, when somebody goes down with something or other. What have you learned? What's been special to you about learning some of those things like CPR, first aid, and whatever?
I think it's a really neat opportunity, just because this hasn't happened to me, but I've heard of like other situations where people will be out and, you know, an elderly person or, you know, a child swallows something, and being able to at least help assist until a medical professional gets there can make all the difference.
Yes.
And you're not living with that kind of guilt of witnessing and not being able to do anything. So, I mean, at my job, when I babysit, anything like that, I do feel more comfortable and prepared.
Great. And so before we close, I want to make sure we touch on this. And you know, Jeff, the program has evolved over the years, appropriately so, because it's not the same world it was in 2008 or whatever. So what may be a couple things where you've seen and you've helped the program evolve to match the world as it is?
So I think one of the things that we realized early on is what makes the leadership program in general unique is the amount of time that we rub elbows with the students. We as the instructors get to spend, and you know, Bible teacher, when you were also there, and being able to rub elbows and live life with them and mentor them along the way. As we grew, I realized that the number of students that I was rubbing elbows with was percentage-wise less. And so we realized that the senior leaders were really becoming the mentors and instructors. And so we began to, and are still in the process of training them to be those mentors who are rubbing elbows. And so when Kayleigh says she has a squad of 16 people and she's mentoring some more than others, she is really the team leader's the first stop, but she's the next stop of if someone needs help, especially, you know, we talk about a world of where mental health is a big deal. Because Kayleigh's been with her squad and her team so much, she can notice when people are off, and she can ask the question. And then we've trained them with certain mental health issues. You know, you need to seek out better guidance, and so that's when they come to instructors. They suggest that the person go to their pastor or parents and talk about the problems. I believe just without saying too much, just this last trip we had, I asked Kayleigh to help out with somebody that needed some just somebody to listen to them and give some good advice. And again, the trust that I have in our senior leaders to be able to say, Kayleigh, will you go take care of this? And she says yes. And I don't feel like I have to micromanage and check. In fact, I think it was the next day when I checked up on Kayleigh and said, oh, by the way, how did things go? And she said, I wanted to tell you. And she gave some great counsel. And it was a wonderful experience where that's what we want our senior leaders to do and who we want them to be, not just for CCS, but in life. We want them to notice people who are on the outskirts and bringing them in, pointing them to Jesus. We talk about 2 Timothy 2:2 is kind of a Paul's discipleship method of what you've seen and heard from me, teach to others that they might teach others also. And so that's kind of our senior leaders are those people that we teach to teach others, to train others.
It's so funny because in today's world, immediately I want to go, yes, that's true, and I do believe that's true. And then I always have to go back and go, well, we're not putting kids in places where they're going to be uncomfortable, or that they're going to try to give actual clinical advice, and that's not what's going on. Right? You're basically being a good friend at that moment, right?
It's what we all should be doing.
It's what we all should be doing. And the reason I draw attention to that is to make sure that gets said. But also to say, we need to understand that young people are capable of so much more in those ways, like personal ministry, or just being a good friend, because like you mentioned earlier, Kayleigh, I think this is such a good point. So much of what we do and what we see as adults is the negative side of kids and all the stuff that they can't do, because there's a lot of kids who can't do those things for various reasons. And then when they see a situation where it's actually being built and people are being forged that way, they're like, nah, I can't. Well, yeah, actually it can be when you actually approach it. So I got to ask you this, and then we got to close. But so as a parent, so you got kids, right? That makes you a parent. So,
I'm a parent.
So, and so do you reckon that your kids will want to move towards the senior leader opportunity?
As of right now, my daughter's in 9th grade, and she's just getting her feet wet. So it's hard to tell.
Okay.
I think she'd be wonderful at it, but I don't know if she'll go in that direction. Yeah. But I would love her to, because I love what you're doing, and it's tested and approved over 17 years. Another
good point. That's another good point to mention as we close, because so many people have looked at this program very closely. People with the Outward Bound movement and National Outdoor Leadership School and various other people have looked at it and said, this is really pretty outstanding, and really is. So, look, it's been a pleasure having you guys. Been great having you. Hearing you. I wish you all the best, and we're praying for you as you get ready to. You got a little while before you have to leave this place, but
we don't talk about that yet.
I know we don't talk about that. It doesn't come up, right? So we're so grateful to have you guys here, and Jeff, I just want to personally thank you again for just the incredible work that you've started and continued and moved through and continue to sacrifice and give yourself to these kids in this program. So thank you for that on behalf of the whole school community.
I appreciate that.
We really appreciate that. And so, as we always try to say at the end of every episode, if you forget everything else that we have said today, remember this one thing: Jesus is Lord. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Gospel Centered Education Podcast, brought to you by Community Christian School in Tallahassee, Florida. You can find us online at myccs.org.